Alright, here we are back for a hole 5 revision. This time I'm going to go with a This time I'm going to go with a globe ball, since you guys already saw a berserker shot from me. And what I usually use for a full OP shot, maybe plus 20, plus 25%, somewhere in there, with a tailwind. So I'm just going to kind of get that input, just so I can get kind of a good feel as to how many rings this will play down. So here it says about 10, and as I mentioned, with the limited yardage of the Epoch 5 or Epoch 4, where I don't have the extra 6 yards. But as I mentioned, I'm going to be looking 10 rings off the left edge of my bullseye as kind of my original alignment. And what this is going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to adjust less rings. I'm going to go 1 full target plus about maybe 2 rings on top of that for my reference start point aim. And here you can see I do catch the fairway. It was a little bit of an over adjustment, but it also shoots over into this rough. So I was really hoping to be able to get into the fairway for you guys. You just got to find, kind of a happy medium there. So on the very first way that I went about adjusting, I landed very left of center on the fairway, and it caught the left rough. That one was very right center of the fairway. So it's just going to come down to that fine tuning. We're within about a ring or two from those two aims as to where you need to be. But what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to just pitch that out into the fairway just so I can go over the thorn shot, because you already have the rough shot. But if you watch my other video, one of the things that you saw is I had some ball guide error setting it up. So it might be something that you want to make sure that you're playing around with the ball guide a little bit. So that's what I'll do temporarily for you guys, is I'll go about setting this up in a pre-shot routine just to give you an idea of what it's going to take. And it looks like where I'm going to set up is very close to maybe mid-club. So I would either use this mid-club number or optionally, and so that's kind of the ball guide deflection that you want to avoid. So here you're going to see me just move it up, and I might just move up my number just slightly. So if I was to go about doing this, I would line this up like this, and I would go the 5 point, well, I might want to offset the guide, so I might want to aim over like that and do it that way. But ideally, this is where we're going to be hopefully driving it up to, and this should give you into a thorn range, and that's where we're going to set up, and I'm going to show you an adjustment for today. Now, one of the things that I do is, I might use between maybe 5 and 15% over adjustment with my pitches. So I'm looking at kind of 5 to 10%, maybe 15%, depending on how close you are to min, mid, or max. So you might want to use just a little bit of an overcorrection. It might help you get a little bit, it helps factor in that ball guide deflection from wind effect. So that's why you're going to always see me use those elevation changes for that adjustment. Now, this is going to be a little bit harder shot with the globe, but let's just see how it looks. So when I use those elevation tricks, what I'll usually do, of course, they give me the maximum wind that I could get. So here's max, way up here. Here's min right there. So we are going to be kind of towards the 20% club or so. I'm going to try to set up on this fringe because that's where it looks like spin-wise it's going to work out pretty favorable for me, right around here. And as I mentioned, I'm going to use kind of a 20% number or so, maybe 5.3 rings. So right in here. Perfect ball. And that plus 5% should help with that ball guide deflection. So here you can see it does shoot off just to the right, but it's very, very close. very, you know, makeable shot. As I mentioned, you know, with that 14 side wind, you have to kind of factor that in. Oh, come on. Why do they always beat me? There's no way he put that in that fast. It just drives me crazy that that happens. So I'm going to get this forfeit going. Make sure I get out of that match. I don't want that score to save. Make sure that I get that down. But in any regard, you know, hopefully that guide is helpful to you. And as I mentioned, you know, especially with a Berserker, if you can get that wind down to a 10 instead of a 14, it's going to make that pitch much more easy. But as I mentioned, you know, use those elevations to kind of help you. So that little bit of extra correction, you know, +5, +10% is going to give you that little bit of extra wind correction for when that 14 wind, you know, comes in, kicks your ball over towards the right. It's going to help offset that. So good luck, you know, play around with that. It's very, very close. And as I mentioned, you know, between 5–10% there is going to be ideal for those side wind to help with that correction. So good luck, and see you guys for a couple more revisions coming up.